Good day, vinyl community. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas and all the stuff that goes along with it. Mr. Rick here once again, and to go through video number 3 of all the Christmas albums that we've got. Oh, and Clyde. Yeah, Clyde doesn't like me to forget him. I'll tell you what, I kind of wish you would scoot over a little bit. You're crowding me. What? Clyde says, "Quit! I'm not a guitar. Quit picking on me." All right. Well, let's get into these wonderful Christmas albums that we've got. This week we're going through the letters D, E, and F, and we'll start off with this one right here from 1964. This is Doris Day. This is her Christmas album that came out in 1964. This is an original Columbia in stereo. And she does a lot of classic Christmas songs, and Let It Snow, Being a Child at Christmas Time, Winter Wonderland, the Christmas songs, but still a nice album. This is arranged by Frank Comstock and Dick Hazard, and a nice Christmas album from Doris from 1964. Danny Davis and the Nashville Brass. Gosh, they were famous back in the 70s in the country music era. They had a lot of nice hits and on the Grand Ole Opry and all that, and on the radio, of course, back then. And this is their Nashville Brass Christmas album. And again, there's a lot of standards on here. Santa Claus is Coming to Town, Jingle Bell Rock, but a good album with the Nashville Sounds, or what they call themselves, the singing group behind Danny Davis and the Nashville Brass. What's up next? Here's Jimmy Dean. This was a broadcast Christmas album, WHIT radio. And I'm not sure exactly when this one came out. It doesn't really say on here, and I haven't looked it up. But I imagine it's probably from the early 1960s. And Jimmy does a good job on these. Well, I can't really say. I haven't really heard this album. I got this album earlier this year. It's an original Columbia, but it's not in very good shape, unfortunately. But still, it's a classic. There's the back of it with Jimmy Dean and his little son, so I'm sure this was from probably 60 years ago or so, and a good Christmas album. It features the Chuck Casey singers, if anybody is familiar with Chuck Casey. Not me, I've never heard of him. Alrighty, here's John Denver's Christmas album from 1975, I believe, is when this one came out. And John Denver, of course, was it's a very good Christmas album also. He plays his 12-string guitar in there, and Steve Weisberg is the guitarist, and a lot of names on here that I haven't really heard of, so I won't bore you with them. But it's still a good Christmas album. He does Christmas for Cowboys, which is a nice tune, and A Baby Just Like You, which is something else too. It's very nice. Good album from John Denver there. Rocky Mountain Christmas from 1975. This album from 1984. Gosh, you couldn't get away from this song. It was playing on the radio. It was playing. I was in a bowling alley, I remember, a couple years ago when this thing was playing on the jukebox. Grandma got run over by a reindeer, and it's actually a very good album. This it's got Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeers on it, but it's also got funny songs like Percy the Puny Poinsettia, Senior Santa Claus, which is a good song, and the classics are here, of course, Jingle Bells, Joy to the World, Silent Night, and several others. There's the back of it. That's Elmo and Patsy, what they looked like way back when in 1984. I guess just about everybody's got that Christmas album. Then we go way back to the early 1950s. This is Percy Faith and his orchestra. and the music of Christmas. I believe this is probably one of the first 12-inch Christmas albums. I'm not sure exactly what year it came out, but it was somewhere in the around 1954 or so. And a nice, easy listening Christmas album from Percy Faith and the Orchestra. It's got all the standards on it, and it's just something that if you just want to lay back and maybe sip some hot chocolate or something and put this album on, it's very easy to get along, very easy listening. Kind of like a Mantovani album. Tennessee Ernie Ford we go. This is Tennessee's Star Carol. He's, of course, I've got 2 or 3 Christmas albums from him. And he does Joy to the World and a lot of the classics here. Deus Te Fidelis and We Three Kings and a whole lot of things. So there's one of his Tennessee Ernie Ford Christmas albums. Here's another Tennessee Ernie Ford, Sing We Now of Christmas. And these are carols as magnificent as Christmas itself, is what it says here. And another good one from Tennessee Ernie Ford, with the Jack Halloran Choir, and the orchestra arranged by Jack Fascinato. And Tennessee Ernie Ford. Let's see what else we can pull up here. Here's the Story of Christmas. This was taken from his television show back in the early 60s. This album came out in 1963. And he talks a lot about magnificent things at Christmas time, and they're just segments that are taken off of his Christmas album, The Story of Christmas, as sung and told by Tennessee Ernie Ford and the Roger Wagner Creole. Here's a fellow that was popular in the 1950s. This is a reissue album of 1965 album by Eddie Fisher. Of course, he was popular in the early 50s and going into the 60s. And it's a good album from him also. You'll find a lot of the classics are on here. And he was popular in his day also. Here are the Forrester Sisters from 1987. If you remember correctly, they were popular. And they had a nice sound. They really harmonized well together. And I think the hit off it was An Old Christmas Card that they reproduced, but they also do Brenda Lee's Rocking Around the Christmas Tree and This Old White Doorway and Little Toy Trains and several others. And good album from the Forrester Sisters. And last but not least, I've got a couple more broadcast albums. These are entitled, I don't know if I get both of them in the picture or not, but these are called Songs for the Season, From All of Us to All of You. And just about everybody that represented music in the 1960s are on these. Jerry Vale and Andy Williams, Susan Ray, Ferlin Huskett, country and pop and jazz, and they were sent to radio stations all over the world. They were basically PSA spots for the U.S. Army Reserve, and each one would happen, the artist would come on and sing, or not sing, but they'd tell you how great the Army Reserve was and why you should join it, and then it would go into one of their Christmas songs. And these are from 1974 and 75, but kind of interesting. Public service announcements from the U.S. Army Reserve. And that takes care of D, E, and F for this week. And we'll be back next week, of course, for more stuff that from the alphabet, and we'll got a whole bunch more Christmas albums yet to come. So, Clyde, you got anything you want to say before we get out, head on down the trail? We come to the end of the program. Clyde says, happy trails.